Okay, so to break the ice, I will start with Canto 1. And I have the Deathbed edition in the Eastern Press edition, leather bound, that I got for $1 at a used bookstore. And I was really tickled pink to find it.
What a deal.
It looks like the original edition doesn't have the numbers, though. Is that possible? It just starts with I celebrate myself. There's no one. Is it possible?
It's possible.
The cantos just to run on against each other?
It is possible.
Okay.
What we'll do is, when we start a new canto, we will mention that this is the start of a canto. And Nicholas, when you start, we'll find where you are, and someone will use the raised hand function to let you know when it's the end. How's that, everybody?
Great. That's fine.
We'll
I think this is the one that you're referring to, and there are no numbers.
No numbers, right?
Yeah, in this one. Which is supposed to be the original and all the others.
I think the book I have on the phone, it actually has both of them, but I kind of feel like reading the original one.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to start with Canto 1, and we'll see. We'll go from there. Song of Myself, Canto 1. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me is good, belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I learn and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this air, from this soil, this air, born here, of parents born here, from parents the same, and their parents the same. I, now 37 years old in perfect health, begin, hoping to cease not until death. Creeds and schools in abeyance, retiring back a while sufficed at what they were, but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad. I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check, with original energy. Shall I continue?
I'm trying to find the copy you have because I only have like 5 lines, and then it went to number 2. So,
what does your number 2 start with?
Houses and rooms.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the same as my number 2.
Oh, okay. Well, yours is a much richer version.
He added.
Would you like me to read number 2?
Please, please.
Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, and buzzed whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch and vine, my respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn, the sound of the belched words of my voice, words loosed to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, the play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag, the delight alone or in the rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall take, you shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself.
I could pick up from here.
Please, yes, go.
I have heard what the talkers are talking, the talk of the beginning and the end, but I do not talk of the beginning or the end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. Urge and urge and urge, always the procreant urge of the world. Out of the dimness opposite equals advance, always substance and increase, always a knit of identity, always distinction, always a breed of life. To elaborate is no avail. Learned and unlearned feel that it is so. Sure as the most certain shore, plumb in the uprights, well entreated, braced in the beams, stout as a horse, affectionate, haughty, electrical. I and this mystery, here we stand. Clear and sweet is my soul, and clear and sweet is all that is not my soul. Lack one lacks both, and the unseen is proved by the seen, till that becomes unseen and receives proof in its turn. Showing the best and dividing it from the worst, age vexes age, knowing the perfect fitness and equanimity of things. While they discuss, I am silent and go bathe and admire myself. Will you signal when it breaks?
We'll let you know.
Oh, okay. Welcome is every organ and attribute of me, and of any man, hearty and clean. Not an inch nor a particle of an inch is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. I am satisfied. I see, dance, laugh, sing, as God comes a loving bedfellow and sleeps at my side all night, and close on the peep of the day, and leaves for me baskets covered with white towels, bulging the house with their plenty. Shall I postpone my acceptation and realization and scream at my eyes that they turn from gazing after and down the road, the forthwith cipher, and show me to assent exactly the contents of one and exactly the contents of two, and which is ahead?
That's
Trip.
it.
Okay.
That's the end.
I'll pick up from there.
Okay.
Trippers and askers surround me, people I meet, the effect upon me of my early life or the ward and city I live in or the nation, the latest dates, discoveries, inventions, societies, authors old and new, my dinner, dress, associates, looks, compliments, dues, the real or fancied indifference of some man or woman I love, the sickness of one of my folks or of myself, or ill doings or loss or lack of money, or depressions or exaltations, battles, the horrors of fratricidal war, the fever of doubtful news, the fitful events. These come to me days and nights and go from me again. But they are not the me myself. Apart from the pulling and hauling stands what I am, stands amused, complacent, compassionating, idle, unitary, looks down, is erect, or bends an arm on an impalpable certain rest, looking with side-curved head curious what will come next, both in and out of the game, and watching and wondering at it. Backward, I see in my own days where I sweated through fog with linguistics and contenders. I have no mockings or arguments. I witness and wait. I believe in you, my soul. The other I am must not abase itself to you, and you must not be abased to the other. Loaf with me on the grass. Loose the stop from your throat. Not words, not music or rhyme I want, not custom or lecture, not even the best, only the lull I like, the hum of your valved voice. I mind how once we lay such a transparent summer morning, how you settled your head athwart my hips and gently turned over upon me, and parted the shirt from my bosom bone, and plunged your tongue to my bare stripped heart, and reached till you felt my beard, and reached till you held my feet. Swiftly arose and spread around me the peace and knowledge that pass all the argument of the earth. And I know that the hand of God is the promise of my own. And I know that the Spirit of God is the brother of my own. And that all the men ever born are also my brothers, and the women my sisters and lovers. And that a kelson of the creation is love, and limitless are leaves stiff or drooping in the fields, and brown ants in the little wells beneath them, and mossy scabs of the worm fence, heaped stones, elder, mullein, and pokeweed.
I'll take 6. In fact, I'll take 6 and 7. A child said, "What is the grass?" fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. I guess it must be the flag of my disposition, out of hopeful green stuff woven. Or I guess it is a handkerchief of the Lord, a scented gift and remembrancer designedly dropped, bearing the owner's name somewhere in the corner, that we may see and remark and say, whose? Or I guess the grass is itself a child, the produced babe of the vegetation. Or I guess it is a uniform hieroglyphic, and it means sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow zones, growing among Black folks as among white, Canuck, Tuckahoe, Congressman, Cuff. I give them the same. I receive them the same. And now it seems to me the beautiful uncut hair of graves. Tenderly, I will use you curling grass. It may be you transpire from the breasts of young men. It may be if I had known them, I would have loved them. It may be you are from old people or from offspring taken soon out of their mother's laps. And here you are, the mother's laps. This grass is very dark to be from the white heads of old mothers, darker than the colorless beards of old men, dark to come from under the faint roofs of mouths. Oh, I perceive, after all, so many uttering tongues, and I perceive they do not come from the roofs of mouths for nothing. I wish I could translate the hints about the dead young men and women, and hints about old men and mothers, and the offspring taken soon out of their laps. What do you think has become of the young and old men? What do you think has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The smallest sprout shows there is really no death. And if ever there was, it led forward life and does not wait at the end to arrest it, and ceased the moment life appeared. All goes onward and outward. Nothing collapses. And to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. Number 7. Has anyone supposed it lucky to be born? I hasten to inform him or her, it is just as lucky to die, and I know it. I pass death with the dying, and birth with the new washed babe, and am not contained between my hat and boots, and peruse manifold objects, no two alike, and every one good, the earth good, and the stars good, and their adjuncts all good. I am not an earth, nor an adjunct of an earth. I am the mate and companion of people, all just as immortal and fathomless as myself. They do not know how immortal, but I know. Every kind for itself and its own. For me, mine, male, female. For me, those that have been boys and that love women. For me, the man that is proud and feels how it stings to be slighted. For me, the sweetheart and the old maid. For me, mothers and the mothers of mothers. For me, the lips that have smiled, eyes that have shed tears. For me, children and begetters of children. Undrape, you are not guilty to me, nor stale, nor discarded. I see through the broadcloth and gingham, whether or no, and am around, tenacious, acquisitive, tireless, and cannot be shaken away.
Number 8, the little one sleeps in its cradle. I lift the gauze and look a long time and silently brush away flies with my hand. The youngster and the red-faced girl turn aside up the bushy hill. I peeringly view them from the top. The suicide sprawls on the bloody floor of the bedroom. It is so. I witnessed the corpse. There, the pistol had fallen. The blab of the pave, the tires of carts, the slough of boot soles, and talk of promanders. The heavy omnibus, the driver with his interrogating thumb, the clank of the shod horses on the granite floor. The Carnival of Slaves, the clinging and shouted jokes and pelts of snowballs, the hoorays of popular favorites, the fury of roused mobs, the flap of the curtained litter, the sick man inside, borne to the hospital, the meeting of enemies, the sudden oath, the blows and fall, the excited crowd, the policeman with his star quickly working his passage to the center of the crowd, the impassive stones that receive and return so many echoes, the souls moving along. Are they invisible while the least atom of the stones is visible? What groans of overfed or half-starved who fall on the flag sunstruck or in fits? What exclamations of women taken suddenly who hurry home and give birth to babes? What living and buried speech is always vibrating here? What howls restrained by decorum? Arrests of criminals, slights, adulterous offers made, acceptances, rejections with convex lips. I mind them or the resonance of them. I come again and again. 9, the big doors of the country barn stand open and ready. The dried grass of the harvest time loads the slow drawn wagon. The clear light plays on the brown, gray, and green intertinged. The armfuls are packed to the sagging mow. I am there, I help. I came stretched atop of the load. I felt its soft jolts, one leg reclined on the other. I jump from the crossbeams and seize the clover and Timothy and roll head over heels, entangle my hair full of wisps.
Is it the start of the next one?
It's the start of the next one. Yes,
Oh, just let me know when it ends.
we will.
Alone, far in the wilds and mountains, I hunt, wondering, amazed at my own lightness and glee. In the late afternoon, choosing a safe spot to pass the night, kindling a fire and broiling the fresh killed game, soundly falling asleep in the gathered leaves, my dog and the gun by my side. The Yankee clipper is under her 3 sky sails. She cuts the sparkle and scud. My eyes settle the land. I bend at her prow or shout joyously from the deck. The boatmen and clam diggers arose early and stopped for me. I tucked my trouser ends in my boots and went and had a good time. You should have been with us that day around the chowder kettle. I saw the marriage of the trapper in the open air in the far west. The bride was a red girl. Her father and his friends sat nearby, cross-legged and dumbly smoking. They had moccasins to their feet and large, thick blankets hanging from their shoulders. On the bank lounged the trapper. He was dressed mostly in skins. His luxuriant beard and curls protected his neck. One hand rested on his rifle. The other hand held firmly the wrist of the red girl. She had long eyelashes. Her head was bare. Her coarse, straight locks descended upon her voluptuous limbs and reached to her feet. The runaway slave came to my house and stopped outside. I heard his motions, crackling the twigs of the woodpile. Through the swung huff door of the kitchen, I saw him limpsy and weak, and went where he sat on a log and let him in and assured him, and brought water and filled the tub for his sweated body and bruised feet, and gave him a room that entered from my own, and gave him some coarse, clean clothes. And remember perfectly well his revolving eyes and his awkwardness, and remember putting plasters on the galls of his neck and ankles. He stayed with me a week before he was recuperated and passed north. I had him sit next me at the table. My firelock leaned in the corner.
That's the end, Nicholas.
Okay.
But you can continue to 11 if
okay.
you want.
Okay. 28 young men bathed by the shore. 28 young men, and all so friendly. 28 years of womanly life, and all so lonesome. She owns the fine house by the rise of the bank. She hides, handsome and richly dressed, aft the blinds of the window. Which of the young men does she like the best? Ah, the homeliest of them is beautiful to her. Where are you off to, lady? For I see you, you splash in the water there, yet stay stock still in your room. Dancing and laughing along the beach came the 29th bather. The rest did not see her, but she saw them and loved them. The beards of the young men glistened with wet. It ran from their long hair. Little streams passed all over their bodies. An unseen hand also passed over their bodies. It descended tremblingly from their temples and ribs. The young men float on their backs. Their white bellies swell to the sun. They do not ask who seizes fast to them. They do not know who puffs and declines with pendant and bending arch. They do not thank whom they souse with spray.
That's the end.
Okay.
12. The butcher boy puts off his killing clothes, or sharpens his knife at the stall in the market. I loiter, enjoying his repartee and his shuffle and breakdown. Blacksmiths with grimed and hairy chests environ the anvil. Each has his main sledge. They are all out. There is a great heat in the fire. From the cinder-strewed threshold I follow their movements. The light sheer of their waists plays even with their massive arms. Overhand the hammers swing, overhand so slow. overhand, so sure. They do not hasten. Each man hits in his place. 13. The Negro holds firmly the reins of his 4 horses. The block swags underneath on its tied-over chain. The Negro that drives the long dray of the stone yard, steady and tall he stands, poised on one leg on the string piece. His blue shirt exposes his ample neck and breast and loosens over his hip band. His glance is calm and commanding. He tosses the slouch of his hat away from his forehead. The sun falls on his crispy hair and mustache, falls on the black of his polished and perfect limbs. I behold the picturesque giant and love him, and I do not stop there. I go with the team also. In me, the caresser of life, were ever moving, backward as well as forward, slewing, to niches aside and junior bending, not a person or object missing, absorbing all to myself and for this song. Oxen that rattle the yoke and chain or halt in the leafy shade, what is that you express in your eyes? It seems to me more than all the print I have read in my life. My tread scares the wood drake and wood duck on my distant and day-long ramble. They rise together. They slowly circle around. I believe in those winged purposes, and acknowledge red, yellow, white playing within me, and consider green and violet and the tuft crown intentional, and do not call the tortoise unworthy because she is not something else, and the jay in the woods never studied the gamut, yet trills pretty well to me, and the look of the bay mare shames silliness out of me.
Number 14, the wild gander leads his flock through the cool night. Ya honk, he says, and sounds it down to me like an invitation. The pert may suppose it meaningless, but I, listening close, find its purpose and place up there toward the wintry sky. The sharp-hoofed moose of the north, the cat of the house sill, the chickadee, the prairie dog, the litter of the grunting sow as they tug at her tits, the brood of the turkey hen, and she with her half-spread wings. I see in them and myself the same old law. The press of my foot to the earth springs 100 affections. They scorn the best I can do to relate to them. I'm enamored of growing outdoors, of men that live among cattle, or taste of the ocean or woods, of the builders and steerers of ships, and wielders of axes, and maws, and the drivers of horses. I can eat and sleep with them week in and week out. What is commonest, cheapest, nearest, easiest is me. Me going in for my chances, spending for vast returns, adorning myself to bestow myself on the first that will take me, not asking the sky to come down to my goodwill, scattering it freely forever. The pure contralto sings in the organ loft. Number 15. The pure contralto sings in the organ loft. The carpenter dresses his plank. The tongue of his foreplane whistles in its wild ascending lisp. The married and unmarried children ride home to their Thanksgiving dinner. The pilot seizes the kingpin. He heaves down with a strong arm. The mate stands braced in the whaleboat. Lance and harpoon are ready. The duck shooter walks by silent and cautious stretches. The deacons are ordained with crossed hands at the altar. The spinning girl retreats and advances to the hum of the big wheel. The farmer stops by the bars as he walks on a first day loaf and looks at the oats and rye. The lunatic is carried at last to the asylum, a confirmed case. He will never sleep anymore as he did in the cot in his mother's bedroom. The jewel printer with gray head and gaunt jaws works at his case. He turns his quid of tobacco while his eyes blur with the manuscript. The malformed limbs are tied to the surgeon's table. What is removed drops horribly in a pail. The quadroon girl is sold at the auction stand. The drunkard nods by the barroom store. The machinist rolls up his sleeves. The policeman travels his beat. The gatekeeper marks who passed. The young fellow drives the express wagon. I love him, though I do not know him. The half-breed straps on his light boots to compete in the race. The Western turkey shooting draws old and young. Some lean on their rifles. Some sit on logs. Out from the crowd steps the marksman, takes his position, levels his piece. The groups of newly come immigrants cover the wharf or levee. As the woolly pates hoe in the sugar field, the overseer views them from his saddle. The bugle calls in the ballroom. The gentlemen run for their partners. The dancers bow to each other. The youth lie awake in the cedar roof garret and harks to the musical rain. The wolverine sets traps on the creek that helps fill the Huron. The squaw, wrapped in her yellow hem cloth, is offering moccasins and bead bags to sell. The connoisseur appears along the exhibition gallery with half-shut eyes bent sideways. As the deckhands make fast the steamboat, the plank is thrown for the shore-going passengers. The young sister holds off the skein while the elder sister winds it off in a ball and stops now and then for the knots. The one-year wife is recovering and happy, having a week ago born her first child. The clean-haired Yankee girl works with her sewing machine or in the factory or mill. The paving man leans on his two-handed hammer. The reporter's lead flies swiftly over the notebook. The sign painter is lettering with blue and gold. The canal boy trots on the towpath. The bookkeeper counts at his desk. The shoemaker waxes his thread. The conductor beats time for the band, and all the performers follow him. The child is baptized. The convert is making his first profession. The regatta is spread by the bay. The race is begun. How the white sails sparkle. The drover, watching his drove, sings out to them that would stray. The peddler sweats with his pack on his back. The purchaser higgling about the odd cent. The bride unrumples her white dress. The minute hand of the clock moves slowly. The opium eater reclines with rigid head and just opened lips. The prostitute draggles her shawl. Her bonnet bobs on her tipsy and pimpled neck. The crowd laughs at her blackguard oaths. The men jeer and wink at each other. Miserable. I do not laugh at your oaths, nor jeer you. The president holding a cabinet council is surrounded by the great secretaries. On the piazza walk, three matrons stately and friendly with twinned arms. The crew of the fish smack pack repeated layers of halibut in the hold. The Missourian crosses the plains, toting his wares and his cattle. As the fare collector goes through the train, he gives notice by the jingling of loose change. The floormen are laying the floor. The tenants are tending the roof. The masons are calling for mortar. In single file, each shouldering his hod, pass on with the laborers. Seasons pursue each other. The indescribable crowd is gathered. It is the 4th of 7th month, the 4th of July. What salutes of cannon and small arms? Seasons pursue each other. The plower plows, the mower mows, and the winter grain falls on the ground. Off on the lake, the pike fisher watches and waits by the hole in the frozen surface. The stumps stand thick around the clearing. The squatter strikes deep with his axe. Flatboatmen make fast towards dusk near the cottonwood or pecan trees. Coon seekers go through the regions of the Red River or through those drained by the Tennessee, through those of the Arkansas. Torches shine in the dark that hang on the Chattahoochee or Altamaha. Patriarchs sit at supper with sons and grandsons and great-grandsons around them. In walls of adobe, in canvas tents, rest hunters and trappers after their day's sport. The city sleeps, and the country sleeps. The living sleep for their time. The dead sleep for their time. The old husband sleeps by his wife, and the young husband sleeps by his wife. And these tend inward to me, and I tend outward to them. And such as it is to be of these more or less I am. And of all these and all I weave the song of myself. Wow. Okay, somebody else take it. I'm overcome.
I'm at 16.
Yes.
Is that where you are? Okay.
Yes.
16. I am old and young, of the foolish as much as the wise, regardless of others, ever regardful of others, maternal as well as paternal, a child as well as a man, stuffed with the stuff that is coarse and stuffed with the stuff that is fine. One of the great nation, the nation of many nations, the smallest, the same, and the largest, the same. A southerner soon as a northerner, a planter nonchalant and hospitable, a Yankee bound my own way, ready for trade, my joints, the limber rest joints on earth, and the sternest joints on earth, a Kentuckian walking the vale of the Elkhorn in my deerskin leggings, a boatman over the lakes or bays or along coasts, a Hoosier, a Badger, a Buckeye, a Louisianan or Georgian, a poke easy from the sandhills and pines, at home on Canadian snowshoes or up in the bush, or with fishermen off Newfoundland, at home in the fleet of ice boats, sailing with the rest and tacking, at home on the hills of Vermont, or in the woods of Maine, or the Texas ranch. Comrade of Californians, comrade of free Northwesterners, loving their big proportions, comrade of raftsmen and coalmen, comrade of all who shake hands and welcome to drink and meet. A learner with the simplest, a teacher of the thoughtfulest, a novice beginning experience of myriad of seasons, of every hue and trade and rank, of every caste and religion, not merely of the New World, but of Africa, Europe, or Asia, a wandering savage, a farmer, mechanic, or artist, a gentleman, sailor, lover, or Quaker, a prisoner, fancy man, rowdy, lawyer, physician, or priest. I resist anything better than my own diversity and breathe the air and leave plenty after me, and am not stuck up and am in my place. The moth and the fish eggs are in their place. The suns I see and the suns I cannot see are in their place. The palpable is in its place, and the impalpable is in its place. 17. These are the thoughts of all men and all ages and lands. They are not original to me. If they are not yours as much as mine, they are nothing or next to nothing. If they do not enclose everything, they are next to nothing. If they are not the riddle and the untying of the riddle, they are nothing. If they are not just as close as they are distant, they are nothing. This is the grass that grows wherever the land is and the water is. This is the common air that bathes the globe. This is the breath of laws and songs and behavior. This is the tasteless water of souls. This is the true sustenance. It is for the illiterate. It is for the judges of the Supreme Court. It is for the federal capital and the state capitals. It is for the admirable communes of literary men and composers and singers and lecturers and engineers and savants. It is for the endless races of working people and farmers and seamen.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. This is the trill of 1,000 clear cornets and scream of the octave flute and strike of triangles. I play not a march for victors only. I play great marches for conquered and slain persons. Have you heard that it was good to gain the day? I also say it is good to fall. Battles are lost in the same spirit in which they are won. I sound triumphal drums for the dead. I fling through my ambushers the loudest and gayest music to them. Viva to those who have failed, and to those whose war vessels sank in the sea, and those themselves who sank in the sea, and to all generals that lost engagements, and all overcome heroes, and the numberless unknown heroes, equal to the greatest heroes known. This is the meal pleasantly set. This is the meat and drink for natural hunger. It is for the wicked just the same as the righteous. I make appointments with all. I will not have a single person slighted or left away. The kept woman and sponger and thief are hereby invited. The heavy-lipped slave is invited. The veneralee is invited. There shall be no difference between them and the rest. This is the press of a bashful hand. This is the float and odor of hair. This is the touch of my lips to yours. This is the murmur of yearning. This is the far-off depth and height reflecting my own face. This is the thoughtful merge of myself and the outlet again. Do you guess I have some intricate purpose? Well, I have, for the April rain has, and the mica on the side of a rock has. Do you take it as I would astonish? Does the daylight astonish? Or the early red start twittering through the woods? Do I astonish more than they? This hour, I tell things in confidence. I might not tell everybody, but I will tell you. Who goes there, hankering, gross, mystical, nude? How is it I extract strength from the beef I eat? What is a man anyhow? What am I? And what are you? All I mark as my own, you shall offset it with your own, else it were time lost listening to me. I do not snivel that snivel the world over, that months are vacuums and the ground but wallow in filth, that life is a suck and a cell and nothing remains at the end but threadbare crape and tears. Whimpering and truckling fold with powders for invalids, conformity goes to the fourth removed. I cock my hat as I please, indoors or out. Shall I pray? Shall I venerate and be ceremonious? I have pried through the strata and analyzed to a hair, and counseled with doctors and calculated close, and found no sweeter fat than sticks to my own bones. In all people I see myself, none more, and not one a barley corn less, and the good or bad I say of myself, I say of them. And I know I am solid and sound. To me, the converging objects of the universe perpetually flow. All are written to me, and I must get what the writing means. And I know I am deathless. I know this orbit of mine cannot be swept by a carpenter's compass. I know I shall not pass like a child's carlicue cut with a burnt stick at night. I know I am august. I do not trouble my spirit to vindicate itself or be understood. I see that the elementary laws never apologize. I reckon I behave no prouder than the level I plant my house by, after all. I exist as I am, that is enough. If no other in the world be aware, I sit content, and if each and all be aware, I sit content. One world is aware, and by far the largest to me, and that is myself. And whether I come to my own today, or in 10,000 or 10 million years, I can cheerfully take it now, or with equal cheerfulness I can wait. My foothold is tenoned and mortised in granite. I laugh at what you call dissolution, and I know the amplitude of time. I
That's
am
a
the
good place
poet
if you
of
want to
the
stop.
okay.
if you
I've
wanna-
lost my place. Can you help me find my place?
Yes,
What number are we on?
it starts, I am the poet of the
21.
body.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I am the poet of the body, and I am the poet of the soul. The pleasures of heaven are with me, and the pains of hell are with me. The first I graft and increase upon myself. The latter I translate into a new tongue. I am the poet of the woman, the same as the man. And I say it is as great to be a woman as to be a man. And I say there is nothing greater than the mother of men. I chant the chant of dilation or pride. We have had ducking and deprecating about enough. I show that size is only development. Have you outstripped the rest? Are you the president? It is a trifle. They will more than arrive there, every one, and still pass on. I am he that walks with the tender and growing night. I call to the earth and sea half held by the night. Press close, bare-bosomed night. Press close, magnetic, nourishing night. Night of south winds, night of the large few stars. Still nodding night, mad, naked summer night. Smile, O voluptuous, cool-breathed earth, earth of the slumbering and liquid trees, earth of departed sunset, earth of the mountains misty topped, earth of the vitreous pour of the full moon just tinged with blue, earth of shine and dark modeling the tide of the river, earth of the limpid gray of clouds brighter and clearer for my sake, far swooping elbowed earth, rich apple blossomed earth, smile, for your lover comes. Prodigal, you have given me love, therefore I to you give love. Oh, unspeakable, passionate love. Number 22. You see, I resign myself to you also. I guess what you mean. I behold from the beach your crooked, inviting fingers. I believe you refuse to go back without feeling of me. We must have a turn together. I undress, hurry me out of sight of the land. Cushion me soft, rock me in billowy drowse, dash me with amorous wet. I can repay you. Sea of stretched ground swells, sea breathing broad and convulsive breaths, sea of the brine of life and of unshoveled yet always ready graves, howler and scooper of storms, capricious and dainty sea. I am integral with you. I too am of one phase and of all phases. Partaker of influx and efflux, I, extoller of hate and conciliation, extoller of amies and those that sleep in each other's arms. I am he attesting sympathy. Shall I make my list of things in the house and skip the house that supports them? I am not the poet of goodness only. I do not decline to be the poet of wickedness also. What blurt is this about virtue and about vice? Evil propels me, and reform of evil propels me. I stand indifferent. My gait is no fault finder's or rejecter's gait. I moisten the roots of all that has grown. Did you fear some scrofula out of the unflagging pregnancy? Did you guess the celestial laws are yet to be worked over and rectified? I find one side a balance and the antipodal side a balance. Soft doctrine as steady help as stable doctrine. Thoughts and deeds of the present hour rouse an early start. This minute that comes to me over the past decillions, there is no better than it and now. What behaved well in the past, or behaves well today, is not such a wonder. The wonder is always and always how there can be a mean man or an infidel.
I'll take it from here. 23. Endless unfolding of words of ages. And mine, a word of the modern, the word en masse. A word of the faith that never balks. Here or henceforward, it is all the same to me. I accept time absolutely. It alone is without flaw. It alone rounds and completes all. That mystic, baffling wonder alone completes all. I accept reality and dare not question it. Materialism first and last imbuing. Hurrah for positive science. Long live exact demonstration. Fetch stone cropped, mixed with cedar and branches of lilac. This is the lexicographer. This the chemist. This made a grammar of the old cartouches. These mariners put the ship through dangerous unknown seas. This is the geologist. This works with the scalpel. And this is a mathematician. Gentlemen, to you the first honors always. Your facts are useful, and yet they are not my dwelling. I but enter by them to an area of my dwelling. Lest reminders of properties told my words, and more the reminders they of life untold, and of freedom and extrication, and make short account of neuters and geldings, and favor men and women fully equipped, and beat the going of revolt, and stop with fugitives, and them that plot and conspire. Number 24, Walt Whitman, a cosmos of Manhattan, the sun, turbulent, fleshy, sensual, eating, drinking, and breeding. No sentimentalist, no standard above men and women or apart from them. No more modest than immodest. Unscrew the locks from the doors. Unscrew the doors themselves from their jams. Whoever degrades another degrades me. And whatever is done or said returns at last to me. Through me, the afflatus surging and surging. Through me, the current and index. I speak the password primeval. I give the sign of democracy. By God, I will accept nothing which all cannot have their counterpart of on the same terms. Through me, many long, dumb voices, voices of the interminable generations of prisoners and slaves, voices of the diseased and despairing, and of thieves and dwarfs, voices of cycles of preparation and accretion, and of the threads that connect the stars, and of wombs, and of the father's stuff, and of the rights of them the others are down upon, of the deformed, trivial, flat, foolish, despised, fog in the air, beetles rolling balls of dawn. Through me, form forbidden voices, voices of sexes and lusts, voices veiled, and I remove the veil, voices indecent by me clarified and transfigured. I do not press my fingers across my mouth. I keep as delicate around the bowels as around the head and butt. Copulation is no more rank to me than death is. I believe in the flesh and the appetites. Seeing, hearing, feeling are miracles. And each part and tag of me is a miracle. Divine am I, inside and out. And I make holy whatever I touch or am touched from. The scent of these armpits aroma finer than prayer. This head more than churches, Bibles, and all the creeds. If I worship one thing more than another, it shall be the spread of my own body or any part of it. Translucent mold of me, it shall be you. Shaded ledgers and rests, it shall be you. Firm, masculine culture, it shall be you. Whatever goes to the tilth of me, it shall be you. You, my rich blood, your milky stream, pale striplings of my life. Breast that presses against other breasts, it shall be you. My brain, it shall be your occult convolutions. Roof of washed sweet flag, timorous pound snipe, nest of guarded duplicate eggs, it shall be you. Mixed, tousled hay of head, beard, brawn, it shall be you. Trickling sap of maple, fiber of manly wheat, it shall be you. Sun so generous, it shall be you. Vapors lighting and shading my face, it shall be you. You sweaty brooks and dews, it shall be you. Winds whose tickling genitals rub against me, it shall be you. Broad muscular fields, branches of live oak, loving lounger in my winding paths, it shall be you. Hands I have taken, face I have kissed, mortal I have ever touched, it shall be you. I dote on myself, and there is that lot of me, and also so luscious. Each moment, and whatever happens, thrills me with joy. I cannot tell how my ankles bend, nor whence the cause of my faintest wish, nor the cause of the friendship I emit, nor the cause of the friendship I take again. That I walk up my stoop, I pause to consider if it really be. A morning glory at my window satisfies me more than the metaphysics of books. To behold the daybreak, the little light fades the immense and diaphanous shadows. The air tastes good to my palate. Hefts of the moving world at innocent gambols, silently rising, freshly exuding, scooting obliquely high and low. Something I cannot see puts upward libidinous prongs. Seas of bright juice suffuse heaven. The earth by the sky stayed with the daily close of their junction. The heaved challenge from the east, that moment over my head, that mocking taunt, see then whether you shall be master.
25. Dazzling and tremendous, how quick the sunrise would kill me if I could not now and always send sunrise out of me. We also ascend dazzling and tremendous as the sun. We found our own soul in the calm and cool of the daybreak. My voice goes after what my eyes cannot reach. With the twirl of my tongue, I encompass worlds and volumes of worlds. Speech is the twin of my vision. It is unequal to measure itself. It provokes me forever. It says sarcastically, Walt, you understand enough. Why don't you let it out then? Come now, I will not be tantalized. You conceive too much of articulation. Do you not know how the buds beneath are folded, waiting in gloom, protected by frost, the dirt receding before prophetical streams? I underlying causes to balance them at last. My knowledge, my live parts, it's keeping tally with the meaning of things, happiness, which whoever hears me let out and set out in search of this day. My final merit, I refuse you. I refuse putting from me the best I am. Encompass worlds, but never try to encompass me. I crowd your noisiest talk by looking toward you. Writing and talk do not prove me. I carry the plenum of proof and everything else in my face. With the hush of my lips, I confound the topmost skeptic. 26. I think I will do nothing for a long time but listen and accrue what I hear into myself and let sounds contribute toward me. I hear the bravuras of birds, the bustle of growing wheat, gossip of flames, the clack of sticks cooking my meals. I hear the sound of the human voice, a sound I love. I hear all sounds as they are tuned to their senses, sounds of the city and sounds out of the city, sounds of the day and night, talkative young ones to those that like them, the recitivity of fish peddlers and fruit peddlers, the loud laugh of work people at their meals, the angry bass of disjointed friendship, the faint tones of the sick, the judge with hands tight on the desk, his shaky lips pronouncing a death sentence, the heaven or stevedores unlading ships by the wharfs, the refrain of the anchor lifters, the ring of alarm bells, the cry of fire, the whir of swift streaking engines, and the hose carts with premonitory tingles and colored lights, the steam whistle, the solid roll of the train of approaching cars, the slow march played at night at the head of the association to go to guard some corpse. The flag tops are draped with black muslin. I hear the violoncello or man's heart complaint and hear the keyed cornet and else the echo of sunset. I hear the chorus. It is a grand opera. This indeed is music. A tenor, large and fresh as the creation fills me, an orbic flex of his mouth as it pours and filling me full. I hear the trained soprano. She convulses me like the climax of my love grip. The orchestra whirls me wider than Uranus flies. It wrenches unnameable ardors from my breast. It throbs me to gulps of the farthest down horror. It sails me. I dab with bare feet. They are lipped by the indolent waves. I am exposed, cut by bitter and poisoned hail, steeped and honeyed morphine, my windpipe squeezed in the fakes of death, let up again to feel the puzzle of puzzles that we call being. Do I do another one? Did I do? Shall I do the next one?
Oh, I can read the next one. I'll read the next two. They're short.
Could I take the two next ones?
Sure,
just to keep the rounds going.
Sure.
To be in any form, what is that? If nothing lay more developed, the quahog and its callous shell were enough. Mine is no callous shell. I have instant conductors all over me, whether I pass or stop. They seize every object and lead it harmlessly through me. I merely stir, press, feel with my fingers, and am happy. To touch my person to someone else's is about as much as I can stand. Is this then a touch, quivering me to a new identity, flames and ether, making a rush for my veins, treacherous tip of me reaching and crowding to help them, my flesh and blood playing out lightning to strike what is hardly different from myself. On all sides, prurient provokers, stiffening my limbs, straining the udder of my heart for its withheld drip, behaving licentious toward me, taking no denial, depriving me of my best as for a purpose, unbuttoning my clothes and holding me by the bare waist, diluting my confusion with the calm of the sunlight and pasture fields, immodestly sliding the fellow senses away. They bribed to swap off with touch and go and graze at the edges of me. No consideration, no regard for my draining strength or my anger, fetching the rest of the herd around to enjoy them a while, then all uniting to stand on a headland and worry me. The, sorry, the sentries desert every other part of me. They have left me helpless to a red marauder. They all come to the headland to witness and assist against me. I am given up by traitors. I talk wildly. I have lost my wits. I and nobody else am the greatest traitor. I went myself first to the headland. My own hands carried me there. You villain touch, what are you doing? My breath is tight in its throat. Unclench your floodgates. You are too much for me. Blind, loving, wrestling touch, sheathed, hooded, sharp-toothed touch. Did it make you ache so, leaving me? Parting tracked by arriving. Perpetual payment of the perpetual loan. Rich showering rain and recompense, richer afterward. Sprouts take and accumulate. Stand by the curb, prolific and vital. Landscapes projected, masculine, full-sized and golden. All truths wait in all things. They neither hasten their own delivery nor resist it. They do not need the obstetric forceps of the surgeon. The insignificant is as big to me as any. What is less or more than a touch? Logic and sermons never convince. The damp of the night drives deeper into my soul. Only what proves itself to every man and woman is so. Only what nobody denies is so. A minute and a drop of me settle my brain. I believe the soggy clods shall become lovers and lamps, and a compend of compends is the meat of a man or woman, and a summit and flower there is the feeling they have for each other, and they are to branch boundlessly out of that lesson until it becomes omnific, and until everyone shall delight us, and we them. I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars, and the pismire is equally perfect, and a grain of sand, and the egg of the wren, and the tree toad is a chef d'oeuvre for the highest, and the running blackberry would adorn the parlors of heaven, and the narrowest hinge in my hand puts to scorn all machinery, and the cow crunching with depressed head surpasses any statue, and a mouse is miracle enough to stagger sextillions of infidels. And I could come every afternoon of my life to look at the farmer's girl boiling her iron tea kettle and baking shortcake. I find I incorporate nice and coal and long-threaded moss and fruits and grains and esculent roots, and am stuccoed with quadrupeds and birds all over, and have distant what is behind me for good reasons, and call anything close again when I desire it. In vain the speeding of shyness, in vain the plutonic rocks send their old heat against my approach. In vain the mastodon retreats beneath its own powdered bones. In vain objects stand leagues off and assume manifold shapes. In vain the ocean settling in hollows and the great monsters lying low. In vain the buzzard houses herself with the sky. In vain the snake slides through the creepers and logs. In vain the elk takes to the inner passes of the woods. In vain the razor-billed auk sails far north to Labrador. I follow quickly, I ascend to the nest in the fissure of the cliff. I think I could turn and live a while with the animals. They are so placid and self-contained. I stand and look at them sometimes half the day long. They do not sweat and whine about their condition. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins. They do not make me sick discussing their duty to God. Not one is dissatisfied. Not one is demented with the mania of owning things. Not one kneels to another, nor to his kind that lived thousands of years ago. Not one is respectable or industrious over the whole earth. So they show their relations to me, and I accept them. They bring me tokens of myself. They evince them plainly in their possession. I do not know where they got those tokens. I must have passed that way untold times ago and negligently dropped them. Myself moving forward then and now and forever, gathering and showing more always and with velocity, infinite and omnigenous, and the like of these among them, not too exclusive toward the reachers of my remembrancers. Picking out here one that shall be my ami, choosing to go with him on brotherly terms. A gigantic beauty of a stallion, fresh and responsive to my caresses, head high in the forehead and wide between the ears, limbs glossy and supple, tail justing the ground, eyes well apart and full of sparkling wickedness, ears finely cut and flexibly moving. His nostrils dilate, my heels embrace him, his well-built lips tremble with pleasure. We speed around and return. I but use you a moment, and then I resign you, stallion, and do not need your paces, and outgallop them, and myself as I stand or sit pass faster than you. Swift wind,
That's a good
space,
place. That's
my
a good place
soul.
for you, Nick.
Now I know it is okay. Sure.
That's you've done
Canto
several
33.
cantos. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It really that's just because it lacks the numbers. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
Space and time. Now I see it is true, what I guessed at. What I guessed when I loafed on the grass. What I guessed while I lay alone in my bed. And alone as I walked the beach under the paling stars of the morning. My ties and ballasts leave me. My elbows rest in sea gaps. I skirt sierras. My palms cover continents. I am afoot with my vision. By the city's quadrangular houses, in long huts camping with lumbermen, along the ruts of the turnpike, along the dry gulch and rivulet bed, weeding my onion patch or hoeing rows of carrots and parsnips, crossing savannas, trailing in forests, prospecting, gold digging, girdling the trees of a new purchase, scorched ankle deep by the hot sand, hauling my boat down the shallow river, where the panther walks to and fro on a limb overhead, where the buck turns furiously at the hunter, where the rattlesnake suns his flabby length on a rock, where the otter is feeding on fish, where the alligator in his tough pimples sleep by the bayou, where the black bear is searching for roots or honey, where the beaver pats the mud with his paddle-shaped tail, over the growing sugar, over the yellow-flowered cotton plant, over the rice in its low, moist field, over the sharp-peaked farmhouse with its scalloped scum and slender shoots from the gutters, over the western persimmon, over the long-leaved corn, over the delicate blue flower flax, over the white and brown buckwheat, a hummer and buzzer there with the rest, over the dusky green of the rye as it ripples and shades in the breeze, scaling mountains, pulling myself cautiously up, holding on by low, scragged limbs, walking the path worn in the grass and beat through the leaves of the brush, where the quail is whistling betwixt the woods and the wheat lot, where the bat flies in the 7th month eve, where the great gold bug drops through the dark, where the brook puts out of the roots of the old tree and flows to the meadow, where cattle stand and shake away flies, with the tremulous shuddering of their hides, where the cheesecloth hangs in the kitchen, where andirons straddle the hearth slab, where cobwebs fall in festoons from the rafters, where trip hammers crash, where the press is whirling its cylinders, wherever the human heart beats with terrible throes under its ribs, where the pear-shaped balloon is floating aloft, floating in it myself and looking composedly down, where the life car is drawn on the slip noose, where the heat hatches pale green eggs in the dented sand, where the she-whale swims with her calf and never forsakes it, where the steamship trails hindways its long pennant of smoke, where the fin of the shark cuts like a black chip out of the water, where the half-burned brig is riding on unknown currents, where shells grow to her slimy deck, where the dead are corrupting below, where the dense starred flag is borne at the head of the regiments, approaching Manhattan up by the long stretching island, under Niagara, the cataract falling like a veil over my countenance, upon a doorstep, upon the horse block of hard wood outside, upon the race course, or enjoying picnics or jigs or a good game of baseball, at he festivals with blackguard gibs, ironical license, bull dances, drinking, laughter, at the cider mill tasting the sweets of the brown mash, sucking the juice through a straw, at apple peelings wanting kisses for all the red fruit I find, at musters, beach parties, friendly bees, huskings, house raisings, where the mockingbird sounds his delicious gurgles, cackles, screams, weeps, where the hayrick stand in the barnyard, where the dry stalks are scattered, where the brood cow waits in the hovel, where the bull advances to do his masculine work, where the stud to the mare, where the cock is treating the hen, where the heifers browse, where geese snip their food with short jerks, where sundown shadows lengthen over the limitless and lonesome prairies, where herds of buffalo make a crawling spread of the square miles far and near, where the hummingbird shimmers, where the neck of the long-lived swan is curving and winding, where the laughing gull scoots by the shore, where she laughs her near-human laugh, where beehives range on a gray bench in the garden, half hid by the high weeds, where band-necked partridges roost in a ring on the ground with their heads out, where burial coaches enter the arched gates of a cemetery, where winter wolves bark amid wastes of snow and icicled trees, where the yellow-crowned heron comes to the edge of the marsh at night and feeds upon small crabs, where the splash of swimmers and divers cool the warm note, where the katydid works her chromatic reed on the walnut tree over the well, through patches of citrons and cucumbers with silver-wired leaves, through the salt lick or orange glade, or under conical firs, through the gymnasium, through the curtain saloon, through the office or public hall, pleased with the native and pleased with the foreign, pleased with the new and old, pleased with the homely woman as well as the handsome, pleased with the Quakeress as she puts off her bonnet and talks melodiously, pleased with the tune of the choir of the whitewashed church, pleased with the earnest words of the sweating Methodist preacher, impressed seriously at the camp meeting, looking in at the shop windows of Broadway the whole forenoon, flattening the flesh of my nose on the thick plate glass, wandering the same afternoon with my face turned up to the clouds, or down a lane or along the beach, my right and left arms round the sides of two friends, and I in the middle, coming home with the silent and dark-cheeked bush boy. Behind me he rides at the drape of the day, far from the settlements, studying the print of animals' feet, or the moccasin print, by the cot in the hospital, reaching lemonade to a feverish patient, nigh the coffined corpse when all is still, examining with the candle, voyaging to every port to dicker and adventure, hurrying with the modern crowd as eager and fickle as any, hot toward one I hate, ready in my madness to knife them, Solitary at midnight in my backyard, my thoughts gone from me a long while. Walking the old hills of Judea with the beautiful, gentle God by my side. Speeding through space, speeding through heaven and the stars, speeding amid the 7 satellites and the broad ring in the diameter of 80,000 miles, speeding with tailed meteors, throwing fireballs like the rest, carrying the crescent child that carries its own full mother in its belly, storming, enjoying, planning, loving, cautioning, backing and filling, appearing and disappearing. I tread day and night such roads. I visit the orchards of spheres and look at the product, and look at quintillions ripened, and look at quintillions green. I fly those flights of a fluid and swallowing soul. My course runs below the soundings of plummets. I help myself to material and immaterial. No guard can shut me off. No law prevent me. Did we want to cut this one in two because it's really long?
It's really long. Let's cut this one in two. I think it's the longest one. You pulled the long straw. I'll take it from here. I anchor my ship for a little while only. My messengers continually cruise away or bring their returns to me. I go hunting polar furs and the seal, leaping chasms with a pike-pointed staff, clinging to topples of brittle and blue. I ascend to the foretruck. I take my place late at night in the crow's nest. We sail the Arctic Sea. It is plenty light enough. Through the clear atmosphere, I stretch around on the wonderful beauty. The enormous masses of ice pass me, and I pass them. The scenery is plain in all directions. The white-topped mountains show in the distance. I fling out my fancies toward them. We are approaching some great battlefield in which we are soon to be engaged. We pass the colossal outputs of the encampment. We pass with steel feet and caution, or we are entering by the suburbs some vast and ruined city. The blocks and fallen architecture more than all the living cities of the globe. I am a free companion. I bivouac by invading watchfires. I turn the bridegroom out of bed and stay with the bride myself. I tighten her all night to my thighs and lips. My voice is the wife's voice, the screech by the rail of the stairs. They fetch my man's body up and dripping and drowned. I understand the large hearts of heroes, the courage of present times and all times. How the skipper saw the crowded and rudderless wreck of the steamship and death chasing it up and down the storm. How he knuckled tight and gave not back an inch and was faithful of days and faithful of nights. And chalked in large letters on a board, "Be of good cheer, we will not desert you." How he followed with them and tacked with them 3 days and would not give it up. How he saved the drifting company at last. How the lank, loose-gowned women looked when boated from the side of their prepared graves. How the silent, old-faced infants and the lifted sick and the sharp-lipped, unshaven ones. All this I swallow. It tastes good. I like it well. It becomes mine. I am the man. I suffered. I was there. The disdain and calmness of martyrs. The mother of old, condemned for a witch, burnt with dry wood, her children gazing on. The hounded slave that flags in the race, lings by the fence, blowing, covered with sweat. The twinges that sting like needles, his legs and neck, the murderous buckshot and the bullets. All these I feel or am. I am the hounded slave. I wince at the bite of the dogs. Hell and despair are upon me. Crack and again cracked the marksman. I clutched the rails of the fence, my gorged ribs thinned with the ooze of my skin. I fall on the weeds and stones. The riders spur their unwilling horses, haul close, taunt my dizzy ears, and beat me violently over the head with whipstocks. Agonies are one of my changes of garments. I do not ask the wounded person how he feels. I myself become the wounded person. My hurt turns livid upon me as I lean on a cane and observe. I am the mashed fireman with breastbone broken. Tumbling walls buried me in their debris. Heat and smoke are inspired. I heard the yelling shouts of my comrades. I heard the distant click of their picks and shovels. They have cleared the beams away. They tenderly lift me forth. I lie in the night air in my red shirt. The pervading hush is for my sake. Painless after all, I lie exhausted, but not so unhappy. White and beautiful are the faces around me. The heads are bared of their fire caps. The kneeling crowd fades with the light of the torches. Distant and dead resuscitate. They show as the dial or move as the hands of me. I am the clock myself. I am an old artillerist. I tell of my forced bombardment. I am there again. Again, the long roll of the drummers. Again, the striking cannon, mortars. Again, to my listening ears, the cannon responsive. I take part. I see and hear the whole. The cries, curses, roar, the plaudits for well-aimed shots. Excuse me. The ambulanza slowly passing, trailing its red drip. Workmen searching after damages, making indispensable repairs. The fall of grenades through the rent roof. The fan-shaped explosion. The whiz of limbs, heads, stone, wood, iron, high in the air. Again gurgles the mouth of my dying general. He furiously waves with his hand. He grasps the clot. Mind not me, mind the entrenchments. Number 34. Now I tell what I knew in Texas in my early youth. I tell not the fall of the Alamo. No one escaped to tell the fall of the Alamo. The 150 are dumb yet at Alamo. 'Tis the tale of the murder in cold blood of 412 young men. Retreating, they have formed a hollow square with their baggage for breastworks. 900 lives out of the surrounding enemies, 9 times their number, was the price they took in advance. Their colonel was wounded, and their ammunition gone. They treated for an honorable capitulation, received writing and seal, gave up their arms, and marched back, prisoners of war. They were the glory of the race of rangers, matchless with horse, rifle, song, supper, courtship, large, turbulent, generous, handsome, proud, and affectionate, bearded, sunburnt, dressed in the free costume of hunters, not a single one over 30 years of age. The second first day morning, they were brought out in squads and massacred. It was a beautiful summer. It was a beautiful early summer. The work commenced about 5 o'clock and was over by 8. None obeyed the command to kneel. Some made a mad and helpless rush. Some stood stark and straight. A few fell at once, shot in the temple or heart. The living and dead lay together. The maimed and mangled dug in the dirt. The newcomers saw them there. Some half killed attempted to crawl away. They were dispatched with bayonets or battered with the blunts of muskets. A youth, not 17 years old, seized his assassin till 2 more came to release him. The three were all torn and covered with the boy's blood. At 11 o'clock began the burning of the bodies. This is a tale of the murder of 412 young men. 35. Would you hear of an old-time sea fight? Would you learn who won by the light of the moon and stars? Listen to the yarn as my grandmother's father, the sailor, told it to me. Our foe was no skulk in his ship, I tell you, said he. His was the surely English pluck, and there is no tougher or truer, and never was, and never will be. Along the lowered eve he came, horribly raking us. We closed with him. The yards entangled, the cannon touched. My captain lashed fast with his own hands. We had received some 18-pound shots under the water. On our lower gun deck, 2 large pieces had burst at the first fire, killing all around and blowing up overhead. Fighting at sundown, fighting at dark, 10 o'clock at night, the full moon well up, our leaks on the gain, and 5 feet of water reported. The master at arms loosing the prisoners confined in the afterhold to give them a chance for themselves. The transit to and from the magazine is now stopped. The transit to and from the magazine is now stopped by the sentinels. They see so many strange faces, they do not know whom to trust. Our frigate takes fire. The other asks if we demand quarter, if our colors are struck, and the fighting done. Now I laugh content, for I hear the voice of my captain. We have not struck, he composedly cries. We have just begun our part of the fighting. Only 3 guns are in use. One is directed by the captain himself against the enemy mainmast. 2, well served with grape and canister, silence his musketry and clear his desks. The tops alone fire second to fire in this little battery, especially the main top. They hold out bravely during the whole of the action. Not a moment cease. The leaks gain fast on the pumps. The fire eats toward the powder magazine. One of the pumps has been shot away. It is generally thought we are sinking. Serene stands the little captain. He is not hurried. His voice is neither high nor low. His eyes give more light to us than our battle lanterns. Toward 12, there in the beams of the moon, they surrender to us.
"36.
It's something, isn't it?
It's yes. Stretched and still lay the midnight, 2 great holes motionless on the breast of the darkness. Our vessel riddled and slowly sinking, preparations to pass to the one we had conquered. The captain on the quarterdeck coldly giving his orders through a countenance white as a sheet. Nearby the corpse of the child that served in the cabin, the dead face of an old salt with long white hair and carefully curled whiskers. The flames, spite of all that could be done, flickering aloft and below. The husky voices of the 2 or 3 officers, yet fit for duty. Formless stacks of bodies and bodies by themselves, dabs of flesh upon the masts and spars. The cut of cordage and dangle of rigging, the slight shock of the smooth of waves, black and impassive guns, and litter of powder parcels, and the strong scent, delicate sniffs of sea breeze, smells of sedgy grass, and fields by the shore, death messages given in charge to survivors, the hiss of the surgeon's knife and the gnawing teeth of his saw, the whiz, the clutch, the wash, swash of falling blood, the short, wild scream, the long, dull, tapering groan. These so, these irretrievable. 37. O Christ, my fit is mastering me. What the rebel said, gaily adjusting his throat to the rope noose. What the savage at the stump, his eye sockets empty, his mouth spiriting whoops and defiance. What stills the traveler come to the vault at Mount Vernon? What sobers the Brooklyn boy as he looks down the shores of the Wallabout and remembers the prison ships? What burnt the gums of the redcoat at Saratoga when he surrendered his brigades? These become mine and me, everyone, and they are but little. I become as much more as I like. I become any presence or truth of humanity here and see myself in prison shaped like another man and feel the dull, unintermitted pain. And for me, the keepers of convicts shoulder their carbines and keep watch. It is I let out in the morning and barred at night. Not a mutineer walks handcuffed to the jail, but I am handcuffed to him and walk by his side. I am less the jolly one there and more the silent one with sweat on my twitching lips. Not a youngster is taken for larceny, and I go up too and am tired and am tried and sentenced. Not a cholera patient lies at the last gasp, but I also lie at the last gasp. My face is ash-colored, my sinews gnarl. Away from me, people retreat. Askers embody themselves in me, and I am embodied in them. I project my hat and sit shame-faced and beg. I rise, ecstatic through all, and sweep with the true gravitation. The whirling and whirling is elemental within me. 38. Somehow I have been stunned. Stand back. Give me a little time beyond my cuffed head and slumbers and dreams and gaping. I discover myself on the verge of the usual mistake. That I could forget the mockers and insults, that I could forget the trickling tears and the blows of the bludgeons and hammers, that I could look with a separate look on my own crucifixion and bloody crowning. I remember, I resume, the overstayed fraction. The grave of rock multiplies what has been confined to it or to any graves. The corpses rise, the gashes heal, the fasteners roll away. I troop forth replenished with the supreme power, one of an average unending procession. We walk the roads of Ohio and Massachusetts, and Virginia and Wisconsin, and New York and New Orleans and Texas and Montreal and San Francisco and Charleston and Savannah and Mexico, inland and by the seacoast and the boundary lines, and we pass the boundary lines. Our swift ordinances are on their way over the whole earth. The blossoms we wear on our hats are the growth of 2,000 years. Elise, I salute you. I see the approach of your numberless gangs. I see you understand yourselves and me, and know that they who have eyes are divine, and the blind and the lame are equally divine, and that my steps drag behind yours, yet go before them, and are aware how I am with you, no more than I am with everybody.
Is it the next one?
Yes, 39.
Okay. Please feel free to interrupt me so I don't do that again.
Okay.
The friendly and flowing savage, who is he? Is he waiting for civilization or past it and mastering it? Is he some Southwesterner raised outdoors? Is he Canadian? Is he from the Mississippi country? Or from Iowa, Oregon, or California? Or from the mountain, or prairie life, or bush life, or from the sea? Wherever he goes, men and women accept and desire him. They desire he should like them, touch them, and speak to them, and stay with them. Behavior lawless as snowflakes, words simple as grass, uncombed head and laughter and naivete, slow stepping feet, and the common features and the common modes and emanations. They descend in new forms from the tips of his fingers. They are wafted with the odor of his body or breath. They fly out of the glance of his eyes. Flaunt of the sunshine, I need not your bask, lie over. You light surfaces only. I force the surfaces and the depths also. Earth, you seem to look for something in my hands. Say, old topknot, what do you want? Man or woman, I might tell how I like you, but cannot. I might tell what it is in me and what it is in you, but cannot. I might tell the pinings I have, the pulse of my nights and days. Behold, I do not give lectures or a little charity. What I give out of myself. You there, impotent, loose in the knees, open your scarf chops till I blow grit within you. Spread your palms and lift the flaps of your pockets. I am not to be denied. I compel. I have stores plenty and to spare, and anything I have, I bestow. I do not ask who you are. That is not important to me. You can do nothing and be nothing but what I will enfold you. To a drudge of the cotton fields or emptier of privies, I lean on his right cheek. I put the family kiss, and in my soul I swear I never will deny him. On women fit for conception, I start bigger and nimbler babes. This day I am jetting the stuff of far more arrogant republics. To anyone dying, thither I speed and twist the knob of the door. Turn the bedclothes toward the foot of the bed. Let the physician and the priest go home. I seize the descending man. I raise him with resistless will. O despairer, here is my neck. By God, you shall not go down. Hang your whole weight upon me. I dilate you with tremendous breath. I buoy you up. Every room of the house do I fill with an armed force. Lovers of me, bafflers of graves. Sleep, I and they keep guard all night. No doubt, not disease shall dare to lay finger upon you. I have embraced you and henceforth possess you to myself. And when you rise in the morning, you will find that I tell you is so. What I tell you is so. I am the bringing help for the sick as they pant on their backs. And for strong, upright men, I bring yet more needed help. I heard what was said of the universe, heard it, and heard of several thousand years. It is middling well as far as it goes, but is that all? Magnifying and applying come I, outbidding at the start the old cautious hucksters. The most they offer for mankind and eternity, less than a spurt of my own seminal wet, taking myself the exact dimensions of Jehovah and laying them away, lithographing Cronus and Zeus his son, and Hercules his grandson, buying drafts of Osiris and Isis and Belus and Brahma and Adonai, in my portfolio placing Magneto loose, and Allah on a leaf, and the crucifix engraved with Odin, the hideous-faced Maxitli, and all idols and images, honestly taking them all for what they worth, not the cent more, admitting they were alive and did the work their day, admitting they bore might as for unfledged birds who have now to rise and fly and sing for themselves, accepting the rough deific sketches to fill out better in myself, bestowing them freely on each man and woman I see, discovering as much or more in a frame or framing a house, putting higher claims for him there with his rolled up sleeves, driving the mallet and chisel, not objecting to special revelations, considering a curl of smoke or a hair on the back of my hand as curious as any revelation. Those a hold of fire engines and hook and ladder ropes, more to me than the gods of the antique wars, minding their voices peal through the crash of destruction, their brawny limbs passing safe over charred laths, their white foreheads whole and unhurt out of the flames. By the mechanic's wife, with her babe at her nipple, interceding for every person born, 3 scythes at harvest, whizzing in a row from 3 lusty angels, with shirts bagged out at their waists. The snag-toothed hustler with red hair, redeeming sins, past and to come, selling all he possesses and traveling on foot for free lawyers for his brother, and sit by him for free lawyers for his brother, and sit by him while he is tried for forgery. What was strewn in the amplest strewing, the square rod about me, and not filling the square rod then. The bull and the bug never worshipped half enough. Dung and dirt, more admirable than was dreamed. The supernatural of no account, myself waiting my time to be one of the supremes. The day getting ready for me when I shall do as much good as the best and be as prodigious. Guessing when I am, it will not tickle me much to receive puffs out of pulpit or print. By my life lumps, becoming already a creator, putting myself here and now to the ambushed womb of the shadows.
That's a
Is
good
it a
point.
good place? Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay.
Canto 42.
Yes.
A call in the midst of the crowd, my own voice, or rotund, sweeping and final. Come, my children, come, my boys and girls, my women, household and intimates. Now the performer launches his nerve. He has passed his prelude on the reeds within. Easily written, loose-fingered chords. I feel the thrum of your climax and close. My head slews round on my neck. Music rolls, but not from the organ. Folks are around me, but they are no household of mine. Ever the hard unsunk ground, ever the eaters and drinkers, ever the upward and downward sun, even the air and the ceaseless tides, even myself and my neighbors, refreshing, wicked, real, even the old inexplicable query, ever that thorned thumb, that breath of itches and thirsts, ever the vexer's hoot, hoot, till we find where the sly one hides and bring him forth. Ever love, ever the sobbing liquid of life, ever the bandage under the skin, ever the trestles of death. Here and there, with dimes on my eyes walking, to feed the greed of the belly, the brains liberally spooning, tickets buying, taking, selling, but into the feast never once going. Many sweating, plowing, thrashing, and then the chaff for payment receiving, a few idly owning, and they the wheat continually claiming. This is the city, and I am one of the citizens. Whatever interests the rest interests me. Politics, wars, markets, newspapers, schools, the mayor and councils, banks, tariffs, steamships, factories, stocks, stores, real estate, and personal estate. The little plentiful mannequins skipping around in collars and tailed coats. I am aware who they are. They are positively not worms or fleas. I acknowledge the duplicates of myself. The weakest and shallowest is deathless, deathless with me. What I do and say the same waits for them. Every thought that flounders in me, the same flounders in them. I know perfectly well my own egotism, know my omnivorous lines, and must not write any less, and would fetch you, whoever you are, flush with yourself. Not words of routine, the song of mine, but abruptly to question, to leap beyond, yet nearer bring this printed and bound book. But the printer and the printing, but your wife or friend close and solid in your arms? The black ship mailed with iron, her mighty guns in her turrets. But the pluck of the captain and engineers? In the houses, the dishes and fare and furniture. But the host and hostess, and the look out of their eyes? The sky up there. Yet here, or next door, or across the way, the saints and sages in history. But you, yourself? Sermons, creeds, theology. But the fathomless human brain? And what is reason? And what is love? And what is life? 43. I do not despise you, priests, all time, the world over. My faith is the greatest of faiths and the least of faiths. Enclosing worship ancient and modern, and all between ancient and modern, believing I shall come again upon the earth after 5,000 years, waiting responses from oracles, honoring the gods, saluting the sun, making a fetish of the first rock or stump, powwowing with sticks in the circle of obis, helping the lama or Brahmin as he trims the lamps of the idols, dancing yet through the streets in a phallic procession, wrapped and austere in the woods as a gymnosophist, drinking mead from the skull cup, to Shastas and Vedas admirant, minding the Quran, walking the Teocallis, spotted with gore from the stone and knife, beating the serpent skin drum, accepting the Gospels, accepting him that was crucified, knowing assuredly that he is divine, to the mass kneeling of the Puritans' prayer rising, or sitting patiently in a pew, ranting and frothing in my insane crisis, or waiting dead-like till my spirit arouses me, looking forth on pavement and land, or outside of pavement and land, belonging to the winders of the circuit of circuits? Out of that centripetal and centrifugal gang, I turn and talk like a man leaving charges before a journey. Downhearted doubters, dull and excluded, frivolous, sullen, moping, angry, affected, disheartened, atheistical, I know every one of you. I know the sea of torment, doubt, despair, and unbelief. How the flukes splash, how they contort rapid as lightning, with spasms and spouts of blood. Be at peace, bloody flukes of doubters and sullen mopers. I take my place among you, as much as among any. The past is the push of you, me, all precisely the same. And what is yet untried and afterward is for you, me, all precisely the same. I do not know what is untried and afterward, but I know it will in its turn prove sufficient and cannot fail. Each who passes is considered. Each who stops is considered. Not a single one can it fail. It cannot fail the young man who died and was buried, nor the young woman who died and was put by his side, nor the little child that peeped in at the door and then drew back and was never seen again, nor the old man who has lived without purpose and feels it with bitterness worse than gale, nor him in the poorhouse tubercled by rum and the bad disorder, nor the numberless slaughtered and wrecked, nor the brutish kobu called the order of humanity, nor the sacks merely floating with open mouths for food to slip in, nor anything in the earth, or down in the oldest graves of the earth, nor anything in the myriads of spheres, nor the myriads of myriads that inhabit them, nor the present, nor the least wisp that is known.
That's good. 44. It is time to explain myself. Let us stand up. What is known, I strip away. I launch all men and women forward with me into the unknown. The clock indicates the moment. But what does eternity indicate? We have thus far exhausted trillions of winters and summers. There are trillions ahead and trillions ahead of them. Births have brought us richness and variety, and other births will bring richness and variety. I do not call one greater and one smaller. That which fills its period and place is equal to any. Were mankind murderous or jealous upon you, my brother, my sister? I am sorry for you. They are not murderous or jealous upon me. All has been gentle with me. I keep no account with lamentation. What have I to do with lamentation? I am an acme of things accomplished. I am an encloser of things to be. My feet strike an apex of the apices of the stairs. On every step, bunches of ages and larger bunches between the steps. All below, duly traveled, and still I mount and mount. Rise after rise bow the phantoms behind me. Afar down, I see the huge first nothing. I know I was even there. I waited unseen and always, and slept through the lethargic mist, and took my time, and took no hurt from the fetid carbon. Long I was hugged close, long and long. Immense have been the preparations for me, faithful and friendly the arms that have helped me. Cycles ferried my cradle, rowing and rowing like cheerful boatmen. For room to me, stars kept aside in their own rings. They sent influences to look after what was to hold me. Before I was born out of my mother, generations guided me. My embryo has never been torpid. Nothing could overlay it. For it, the nebula cohered to an orb, the long, slow strata piled to rest it on. Vast vegetables gave it sustenance. Monstrous sauroids transported it in their mouths and deposited it with care. All forces have been steadily employed to complete and delight me. Now on this spot I stand with my robust soul. 45. O span of youth, ever pushed elasticity. O manhood, balanced, florid, and full. My lovers suffocate me, crowding my lips, thick in the pores of my skin, jostling me through streets and public halls, coming naked to me as night, crying by day, ahoy, from the rocks of the river, swinging and chirping over my head, calling my name from flower beds, vines, tangled underbrush, lighting on every moment of my life, busting my body with soft balsamic buses, noiselessly passing handfuls out of their hearts and giving them to be mine. Old age superbly rising. Oh, welcome, ineffable grace of dying days. Every condition promulges not only itself, it promulges what grows after and out of itself. And the dark hush promulges as much as any. I open my skull at night and see the far sprinkled systems, and all I see multiplied as high as I can cipher, edged but the rim of the farther system. Wider and wider they spread, expanding, always expanding, outward and forever outward. My son has his son, and around him obediently wheels. He joins with his partners a group of superior circuit, and greater sets follow, making specks of the greatest inside them. There is no stoppage, and never can be stoppage, if I, you, and the worlds, all beneath or upon their surfaces, were this moment reduced back to a pallid float, it would not avail in the long run. We should surely bring up again where we now stand, and surely go as much farther, and then farther and farther. A few quadrillions of errors, a few octillions of cubic leagues. Do not hazard the span or make it impatient. They are but parts, and anything is but a part. See ever so, there is limitless space outside of that. Count ever so much, there is limitless time around that. My rendezvous is appointed. It is certain. The Lord will be there and wait till I come on perfect terms. The great camarado, the lover true for whom I pine, will be there. 46. I know I have the best of time and space, and was never measured, and never will be measured. I tramp a perpetual journey. Come listen, all. My signs are a rainproof coat, good shoes, and a staff cut from the woods. No friend of mine takes his ease in my chair. I have no chair, no church, no philosophy. I lead no man to a dinner table, library, exchange, but each man and each woman of you I lead upon a knoll, my left hand hooking you round the waist, my right hand pointing to landscapes of continents and the public road. Not I, nor anyone else can travel that road for you. You must travel it for yourself. It is not far. It is within reach. Perhaps you have been on it since you were born and did not know it. Perhaps it is everywhere on water and on land. Shoulder your duds, dear son, and I will mine, and let us hasten forth. Wonderful cities and free nations we shall fetch as we go. If you tire, give me both burdens and rest the chuff of your hand on my hip, and in due time, you shall repay the same service to me. For after we start, we never lie by again. This day, before dawn, I ascended a hill and looked at the crowded heaven. And I said to my spirit, when we become enfolders of these orbs and the pleasure and knowledge of everything in them, shall we be filled and satisfied then? And my spirit said, no, but we level that lift to pass and continue beyond. You are asking me questions, and I hear you. I answer that I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. Sit a while, dear son. Here are biscuits to eat, and here's milk to drink. But as soon as you sleep and renew yourself in sweet clothes, I kiss you with a goodbye kiss and open the gate for your egress hence. Long enough have you dreamed contemptible dreams. Now I wash the gum from your eyes. You must habit yourself to the dazzle of the light and of every moment of your life. Long have you timidly waited, holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea, rise again, nod to me, shout, and laughingly dash your hair.
Wow. So I get 47. 47. I am the teacher of athletes. He that by me spreads a wider breast than my own proves the width of my own. He most honors my style who learns under it to destroy the teacher. The boy I love, the same becomes a man, not through derived power, but in his own right, wicked rather than virtuous out of conformity or fear, fond of his sweetheart, relishing well his stake, unrequited love, or slight cutting him worse than a wound cuts. First rate to ride, to fight, to hit the bullseye, to sail a skiff, to sing a song or play on the banjo, preferring scars and pitted faces with smallpox over all lathers and those that keep out of the sun. I teach straying from me Yet who can stray from me? I follow you, whoever you are, from the present hour. My words itch at your ears till you understand them. I do not say these things for $1 or fill up the time while I wait for a boat. It is you talking just as much as myself. I act as the tongue of you. It is tied in your mouth. In mine, it begins to loosen. I swear I will never mention love or death inside a house. And I swear I never will translate myself at all, only to him or her who privately stays with me in the open air. If you would understand me, go to the heights or water shore. The nearest gnat is the explanation, and a drop or the motion of waves a key. The maul, the oar, the handsaw seconds my words. No shuttered room or school can commune with me, but roughs and little children better than they. The young mechanic is closest to me. He knows me pretty well. The woodman that takes his axe and jug with him shall take me with him all day. The farm boy plowing in the field feels good at the sound of my voice. In vessels that sail, my words must sail. I go with fishermen and seamen and love them. My face rubs the hunter's face when he lies down alone in his blanket. The driver, thinking of me, does not mind the jolt of his wagon. The young mother, an old mother, shall comprehend me. The girl and the wife rest the needle for a moment and forget where they are. They and all would resume what I have told them. 48. I have said that the soul is not more than the body, and I have said that the body is not more than the soul, and nothing, not God, is greater than oneself is. And whoever walks a furlong without sympathy walks on his own funeral, dressed in his shroud, and I or you, pocketless of a dime, may purchase the pick of the earth. And to glance with an eye or show a bean in its pod confounds the learning of all times. And there is no trade or employment, but the young man following it may become a hero. And there is no object so soft that it makes a hub for the wheeled universe. And any man or woman shall stand cool and supercilious before a million universes. And I call to mankind, be not curious about God. For I who am curious about each am not curious about God. No array of terms can say how much I am at peace about God and about death. I hear and behold God in every object, yet I understand God not in the least, nor do I understand who there can be more wonderful than myself. Why should I wish to see God better than this day? I see something of God each hour of the 24, and each moment then. In the faces of men and women, I see God, and in my own face in the glass. I find letters from God dropped in the street, and every one is signed by God's name, and I leave them where they are, for I know that others will punctually come forever and ever. 49 is next.
Okay. And as to your death, and you bitter hug of mortality, it is idle to try to alarm me. To his work without flinching, the accoucheur comes. I see the elder hand pressing, receiving, supporting. I recline by the sills of the exquisite flexible doors and mark the outlet and mark the relief and escape. And as to you, corpse, I think you are good manure. But that does not offend me. I smell the white roses, sweet-scented and growing. I reach to the leafy lips. I reach to the polished breasts of melons. And as to you, life, I reckon you are the leavings of many deaths. No doubt I have died myself 10,000 times before. I hear you whispering there, O stars of heaven, O suns, O grass of graves, O perpetual transfers and promotions. If you do not say anything, how can I say anything? Of the turbid pool that lies in the autumn forest, of the moon that descends the steeps of the soughing twilight. Toss sparkles of day and dusk, toss on the black stems that decay in the muck, toss to the moaning gibberish of the dry limbs. I ascend from the moon, I ascend from the night, and perceive of the ghastly glitter of sunbeams reflected, and debouch to the steady and central from the offspring great or small. There is that in me. I do not know what it is, but I know it is in me. Wrenched and sweaty, calm and cool then my body becomes. I sleep long. I do not know it. It is without name. It is a word unsaid. It is not in any dictionary or utterance or symbol. Something it swings on more than the earth I swing on. To it, the creation is the friend whose embracing awakes me. Perhaps I might tell more. Outlines. I plead for my brothers and sisters. Do you see, oh my brothers and sisters? It is not chaos or death. It is form and union and plan. It is eternal life. It is happiness. The past and present wilt, I have filled them and emptied them, and proceed to fill my next fold of the future. Listener up there, hear you. What have you to confide to me? Look in my face while I snuff the sidle of evening. Talk honestly, for no one else hears you, and I stay only a minute longer. Do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. I concentrate toward them that are nigh. I wait on the door slab. Who has done his day's work and will soonest be through with his supper? Who wishes to walk with me? Will you speak before I am gone? Will you prove already too late? The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and my loitering. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. The last scud of day holds back for me. It flings my likeness after the rest, and true as any on the shadowed wilds, it coaxes me to the vapor and the dusk. I depart as air. I shake my white locks at the runaway sun. I effuse my flesh in eddies and drift it in lacy jags. I bequeath myself to the dirt and grow from the grass I love. If you want me again, look for me under your boot soles. You will hardly know who I am or what I mean, but I shall be good health to you nevertheless, and filter and fiber your blood. Failing to fetch me at first, keep encouraged. Missing me one place, search another. I stop somewhere waiting for you.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Does it end the same way in both versions?
It is the same way in both versions.
Okay.
And in mine.
I didn't know. I thought they were much more different because you were all reading the deathbed version, right?
I was, yeah.
I was
Uh,
also, yeah.
Okay, but they ended up not being all that different
That's
as
right.
I expected.
Slight
There-
edits.
Lots
It's
of,
just in the beginning they were very different, but then just some words. There was a funny place where he goes, one Thursday, and my version says one Sunday.
Oh. Hmm.
There were
I-
many more things in my copy, and there were many more edits of not what I heard, and I'd have to see.
Yeah, I had
Mm.
things like that too, but I just thought they were more different.
But
I noticed.
the question, are you a Dickinsonian or a Whitmanian? I'm definitely with Whitman after this.
You know, you feel him talking to you through these words across the decades, across the centuries. It's
Yes.
just as relevant and just as pertinent today in these times as it was when he wrote them. I mean, he wrote for eternity.
Yes.
I'm in a different group, and we're reading Dante's Divine Comedy, and
Oh,
we read 3 cantos each week. And I see an interesting amount of Dante in Whitman. But
interest.
you know, it's the human. He's writing about the human condition. I mean, how many different ways can you say it?
Right.
It's really it's fascinating. There are places where it takes me away. It just takes my breath out.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
Wow. One time I went to a pub and they read the whole Beowulf, and we volunteered from the audience and stood in a line with mics, and each person took so much, and they did. I mean, it took 5.5 hours or something. Fortunately, I was in the second section, so I didn't stay for the whole thing. But doing this is different than when I sit alone and read it out loud to my dog.
It is different. I agree.
Yes, yes. And if we were sitting in a room, then I'd be looking up at your faces, your expressions that I can't see so clearly.
Mhm.
I read that Bill Collins wrote somewhere that sitting alone in a room reading a poem to your dog is not a very rewarding experience. Cats are different. He goes on. And he just has another passage discussing the merits of reading poetry to cats.
My cat leaves the room.
Y'all have heard the difference between a dog and a cat, haven't you? When you feed the dog looks up and he says, "My master is so good. He feeds me, he takes care of me. He must be God." And the cat says, when the cat is fed, the cat says,
I must be good.
That's right. The cat says, "My master is so good. He feeds and takes care of me. I must be God."
I note which oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask I think who was just which differences you noticed. I saw that in many places he replaced the A and B and C and D with just A comma B comma C comma D. That was just consistently edited throughout the text. Did you notice anything else?
Well, I sort of notated the places where other things were added, whole pieces, whole fabrics were added. For example, let me find the first one, where those are major. Number 20, Canto 20. There was a whole section added that didn't exist in the deathbed version. And that was the first one I noticed. Everything else was kind of minor, but then it picks up, and there's a whole section in another whole section in Canto 31. A whole section is deleted.
Do you also have a lot of ellipses in it? Like Dickinson had a lot of dashes, and this one seems to have a lot of ellipses. like 4 dots in a row.
Yes, I see
Yeah,
that.
same thing. Right?
Yeah, and I get this is it's probably the same. The purpose is to give the reader a chance to catch his breath and to pause and to think.
I
You know,
think so. And the listener to grok what came previously.
yeah.
He sure loved some weird French words.
Ah,
He has some words
I think I read some. I didn't notice it this time, but sometime I read it before I even saw one Russian word in it somewhere, just one. But I didn't notice it this time.
it's interesting that he's speaking to the whole world. Speaking to the whole world. Of course, he uses a lot of U.S. geography in his descriptions of things. He talks about the Mississippi, and he talks about Michigan, and he talks about the Rockies, and he talks about various places in the United States or in Canada that if you're not familiar with it, you might not quite catch it. But again, he's talking, there's a sense that he's talking to the world.
And to all times.
And to all times.
He is the ultimate everyman.
Yeah. It's worth doing the whole thing. And in Mapo, I understand that they have an economy on time, and so they pick certain cantos and have people read them. But you don't get the full richness of it unless you sit down with a group of people and read the whole thing.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this.
Are you guys taking the course, or is one of you a TA there?
I'm a CTA, but this is my 10th year, and every year I do a little bit less and a little bit less. But I enjoy the project of organizing and doing the reading of the whole song myself. And I just learned that one of the TAs, Jason Zunga, is reading Passage to India during his office hours on Zoom. And so I'm going to join him Thursday night at 8 to read Passage to India.
Thursday night.
The course is great, and I got a lot from it when I took it in 10 years ago, 2012. But there's so much that the course skips because it's a survey, and they've got to reach a point where they can say they've done the whole thing, and so they kind of skip over things. And there's a lot in the cracks in the middle that you miss out on unless you pause and backtrack and go back and do it. And when you do it with a group, then the thing about reading with a group is that what one person misses or deletes or omits, another person will add, either through their reading of it or their experience or their knowledge. And so it's great to do it, and it's a communal thing.
Yes, and I think poetry is meant to be heard aloud.
Yep. And in groups.
Yes. Well, that thing on Thursday night sounds very interesting, but I think I have an open mic. This is my second year of doing it, of ModPo. But last year I was doing it on my phone, and you really can't write an essay on your phone. Yeah. And I couldn't see things well, and I had interruption in service, and so I did not fully participate, and I'm trying to embrace it all like Walt would.
What I'm going to do then is create a discussion in the forums about this read. And what I'd like for you all to do is comment on what you observed, what you got out of it, whether or not you thought it was worthwhile, and we'll show the rest of them.
Next year, sign up. Yes,
that's right. That's right.
But I feel honored to be in this intimate little group. And
yeah, it's great.
Thank you for setting it up.
I wanted to ask Raymond, is there September 12th specific? Is there something specific about Whitman? Like, is there a reason why it's today, or is it just convenient with the?
No, it came up last Friday, and to do it that Sunday would have been too short a notice.
Okay.
And so I chose this Sunday because we wanted to do it before we got off the first unit that covered Whitman.
I see.
And so that's kind of why I rushed to do it this week. And I would have, frankly, I would have done it last week had I started early enough in the week to talk about it.
Well, it was perfect timing for me.
Good.
I just got my books on William Carlos Williams, and then I saw your thing last night, and I went, well, I have to do that. And I put away Walt and Emily.
So this might be an urban legend, but a friend of mine lives in Brooklyn, and he apparently lives just a few doors down from the house that Whitman grew up in, right? Like on the same street. Is that possible in New York?
It's possible, yes.
But I thought he lived in Massachusetts, and she always lived there.
He
might have always, because I don't know. I think it might.
Oh, are you saying?
Wait. I think
Whitman.
Whitman moved at some point.
Okay. No, I get it. Cancel what I said.
So I don't know. I mean, if this is true, it's pretty cool. But secondly, the door is not even, there's no plaque or anything, you know, which is kind of unfortunate if it is true. Same for like it's weird, like these guys, I like that we do this because they don't get much recognition like in the outside world, you know, outside of poetry. But I think Whitman is a national hero, you know. Yes. I love Song of Myself. It's so good.
Yes.
There's a YouTube or TED Talk or something I saw where a guy recounts the story of getting a job as the manager of the museum in the house where Whitman used to live in Brooklyn. And it's a pretty interesting story. It's kind of a story that splices fiction and fact. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll share it with you all. Of course, Walt Whitman lived in Washington, D.C. during the Civil War. He was a nurse, and there are quotes from him all over the city. Things that he said, work that he did during the period of time that he was here during the Civil War. And in his later years, he lived in New Jersey, I think, where one of his associates took care of him because he had a stroke. And for a while, he wasn't able to take care of himself. Interesting guy, interesting story, interesting life.
I think as far as the quotes, the quotes and places go, I read somewhere that the 9/11 memorial carries an inscription from Song of Myself, the part where he goes on about the fireman who was hit by something and dug out by his comrades. I don't know if that's true, but I think I read it somewhere.
Wow.
Could be
in the 9/11 memorial.
Yeah, my son used to live in Brooklyn, and I will ask him if he's been there. And I've visited Brooklyn many times, but there's so much to see in New York City. Oh my God.
Well, I'm originally from North Carolina, and during the period of time known as the Great Migration, where so many Blacks moved from the South to the North, whole segments of my family moved to Bedford-Stuyvesant, and rented brownstones on Hancock Street in Brooklyn, and remained there. And when they got a chance, they bought the brownstone that they had rented back in the 60s when it was cheap. It was a giveaway basically, and they remained there, and now they're living in these houses that are worth millions of dollars. And it's where they live. They can't monetize it because they live there,
right?
And some of them, a lot of folks who migrated to the North because of bad times in the South are now moving back to the South. And so, it's interesting how these things get manifested in the geography and in the cartography of the cities over time. Yeah, it's something.
Is your family doing okay with the pandemic?
Mine is fine. Everybody's fine. Nobody's actually been sick. My wife and I had caught something early on, and we declared ourselves naturally immune because we had a really bad thing that we think we don't know. It was early.
And did it bear out the test? Is it true you're immune?
Well, we don't know. The test only tests for the presence of the disease now. We haven't taken a test for antibodies.
Oh.
But again, we haven't been sick. We haven't had a sniffle since January of 2020. So we are saying that we have a natural immunity. Who knows?
Well, still wear a mask, okay?
Yeah. Yep. All right, y'all. My dinner's ready. So I'm gonna split.
So is my bed.
I'm gonna create the forum, the discussion in the forums. I'll find the appropriate place, look for it, and respond to it if you would, please, so we can let people know we actually did it.
For sure.
How do I do it? I just haven't been to the forum yet. Is the thing you're doing triggering some notification or something?
I will send you a link. I have y'all's names. Joshua, what is your last name?
Seguin.
Oh, you're Joshua Seguin.
Yes, sir. That's me.
Okay, we've been in touch before.
That's right.
Yes. I will send everybody a link.
Okay, because sometimes it's hard for me to find where I am on the main page of ModPo.
I left the email in the chat.
I got it.
That would help.
All right.
Do you want my email?
I'm not. I can find you. I'll find you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll find
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Just one quick minor correction. I just found out I lied. That Russian word was in the song for occupations. So basically the next poem, but it was there.
But it's Whitman.
Yeah, it's certainly Whitman.
Yes.
The adjacent poem.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for.
All right. And so
up.
look for me in the forums. I'll look for you all, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks, y'all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.